We're back right now with the Politics Fix with some young folks. Ryan Liz of The New Yorker and Melinda Henneberger of PoliticsDaily.com. Melinda, you young person, and I really have been through the Kennedy period. I grew up with it. You folks didn't. Let me ask you this. Well, I always get in trouble for saying I'm inspired by Barack Obama, which I've been in the past, especially during his campaign. What about Ted Kennedy and you, my dear?
Well, something that Ted Kennedy has been a huge inspiration to me, and just listening to the coverage over the last couple of days, one of the things that struck me the most was listening again to his fabulous 1980 convention speech. And 1980 is the year I graduated from college, so I'm not that young. And the night of that speech, a bunch of us who had just graduated from Notre Dame and were all going out to do a year of service work were meeting in a Holy Cross retreat house in Colorado Springs before we all went our separate ways to work in inner cities all over the country. And so listening to that speech that night was a hugely important, seriously, moment in, I think, all our lives, just thinking about the importance of giving back, of, idealism, of that not being something to be ashamed of, but that being our duty as Catholics, frankly. It was a moment that I will never forget and was really moved to see again this week.
So for all those whose cares are our concern, that got to you, and what causes were those?
Caring for people who needed our help, thinking about other people, hanging in there when things were rough, not having it depend on whether you lost or won in the short term.
Melinda, thank you for that.
Thanks.
Ryan, your thoughts about that? The Ted Kennedy speech, I was there at the convention hall in New York, and that was one heck of a speech. In fact, we've all been quoting for the end where he says, "For me, a few hours ago, this campaign came to an end, but for all those whose cares are our concern, the work goes on, the cause endures, the hope still lives, and the dream shall never die." We always recall that part of it. But there were some other wonderful parts. It was very partisan. It was wonderfully funny. He talked about the elephant that tries to do handstands ends up on its back. I will never forget that word picture, as Nixon would call it, a word picture. You have to chuckle at it because he says when the Republicans try to be tricky, they end up looking stupid. Clever, brilliant rhetoric. Your thoughts about Ted Kennedy and what you haven't been able to say in the last several days?
The moment in his life that's been that I've seen in the last few days that really resonated with me and I wasn't quite as familiar with before his death is after RFK's assassination. He goes into seclusion for several months, and a lot of his advisors tell him, maybe you shouldn't return to politics. Maybe you should quit the Senate. I mean, literally being a Kennedy could be a threat to your life. His three brothers are now dead. And after several months of just sort of being hidden away and thinking things through, he comes out and gives this speech in Worcester, Massachusetts, where he says, no, I'm not going to listen to those voices that tell me to just go away. I'm going to stick with this profession. I'm going to stick with public service. To me, it's a sort of heroic moment in his life because it's, a lot had been handed to him on a silver platter up until that point. But there he's saying, despite the death of now 3 of my brothers, I'm going to continue on and I'm going to stick with the family business, even though it literally it could be life-threatening. I found that a very poignant speech.
Well said, and it was life-threatening. I was at Holy Cross. Now that we're comparing our Catholic upbringing with Notre Dame, I could have gone to Notre Dame. I went to Holy Cross.